ọ̀kan nínú àwọn ọmọ ogun lámúròdù ní Oòduà jẹ́ kí ó tó wá sí Ilé Ifẹ̀ ní ìhàyín.
What are you saying in essence, Itara, son of Nahor?
What, my lord?
Ẹ ṣeun. Orúkọ ọmọ náà ń jẹ́ Brahima.
The Genesis,
the message film,
starring Masha Yasharala.
We come for chant down Babylon. Mindset of King David. War. Streaming
On h2ntv.com and other digital platforms.
You devils ready?
You owe me an album. Brother, there comes a time where we just got to get back to the money.
But with me, it's not all about the money. And by the way, I gave you an album, and you shelved it.
You damn right I shelved it. Because you were singing The Lord is my shepherd. I can't play that in a strip club.
It's about my walk with God.
You're not the first nor the only one to walk with God. I signed you. I made you.
Do old brothers say, hell, come and repent. Who are you?
Okay, enough. If I win, we get back to the hits that make the chicks on the strip. And we can let them get back to those little church concerts.
It's gonna be a blessing, Marshall, I tell you.
I wouldn't do that.
What just happened?
Are you ready to die today?
Let me speak to them.
So what's your name?
I'm Kweku.
Kweku
Abeku.
from the Fati tribe?
Elmina, Elamina, ancient town, Elamina.
Okay.
Which is Edina. We black people, don't forget about where we born. As long as you're a black man or black woman, you are Hebrew or you are Israelite, because it's a one thing. You see it? But Babylon them just divide it so that you could know where we're coming from, where we are going. And now you know yourself. That is why you touch the land. So my brothers, my sisters, we are welcome. We are waiting for them.
Come home.
Them have to come home.
You're like Marcus Garvey said.
And that is a prophecy. So the prophecy must be fulfilled. And this is the time the prophecy must be fulfilled. So we need you all.
All right.
One love, one heart.
Oh, yeah. Just when you thought it was over, we're back at it again. It's time for us to walk in our biblical destiny as the true Israelites of the Bible.
Can't get your film on the big 4 distribution platforms in Africa? Netflix, Amazon, Showmax, or DSTV? Are you a filmmaker or content creator struggling to make money from your work? Do you have hundreds of thousands of followers or subscribers but still feel broke? The frustration. Why keep waiting for the next advertising gig? Why wait for these companies to pay you cents for your views while your audience and influence grow every single day? It's time to take control. Instead of settling for a once-off exclusive deal, why not earn royalties? Why not build an income stream that pays you not once, but every single month? Stop waiting for permission. Start getting paid for what's already yours. Your followers, your subscribers, your creativity. The future of film and content distribution is here. At Mzansi Wood Films and Distribution, all your problems are solved. Submit, distribute, get paid. Wake up.
Calling on all.
GH, what's going on?
Before we go, I need to know that you're on the level with me. No matter how far this thing goes, I need to know that we're good. Because if what just happened here is happening everywhere, we need to get to that bunker Danny told us about, and we need to get there now.
What are you talking about? You know something.
I had a sneaking suspicion, but I wanted more information first. All the signs were there, sure, but I didn't want to scare anyone. You'd have called me crazy because it is crazy. It would have made more sense if we were on the brink of an all-out invasion. But this... I didn't think we'd actually let something like this happen. I thought we were smarter than that.
What happened?
Because my primary client works in the defense sector, I spent a lot of time studying the cost-benefit analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple 3-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. First stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible, setting them up for the second stage. Synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy or motive, people would start turning on each other. Done successfully, the third stage would happen on its own.
What's the third stage?
A coup d'etat. Civil war. Collapse. This program was considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country. Because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
Pay attention.
I gave ChatGPT the following prompt. Pretend you are the devil. What psychological, financial, and bureaucratic tricks would you use to keep the Black diaspora living in the West from relocating and investing in Africa? And for what ultimate purpose would you enforce these tricks? And here is the response.
If I were the devil, I would weave my tricks not with fire and brimstone, but with chains that cannot be seen. Here is how I would keep the Black diaspora trapped in the West, away from Africa. Psychological tricks. I would whisper doubts into their minds, teaching them that Africa is dangerous, chaotic, and hopeless. I would feed them endless images of poverty, war, and instability, never showing the innovation, beauty, or resilience. I would glorify the comfort of the West, convincing them that leaving behind their jobs, their security, their pensions would be reckless. I would make them fear failure, ridicule, and the judgment of their families. Above all, I would make them believe that their power, their future, and their dignity are tied to staying where they are. Financial tricks, I would entangle them in golden chains, student loans, mortgages, car payments, credit card debt. I would lure them with consumerism, so they never accumulate the capital to invest elsewhere. And when some of them manage to save, I would flood them with stories of scams, corruption, and collapsed businesses in Africa, so they clutch their money tightly instead of planting it in their ancestral soil. Meanwhile, I would keep Western currencies strong and African currencies weak, so that every step toward investing in Africa looks like a bad financial decision. Bureaucratic tricks. I would ensure Africa's systems remain intentionally complex, endless paperwork, unclear laws, sudden policy changes, and officials who can stall progress for months. I would make permits, land titles, and licenses labyrinths that exhaust even the boldest dreamers. I would let corruption fester, so the diaspora feels unwelcome and unsafe. At the same time, I would design visa rules and residency permits in the West that make leaving feel like burning a bridge they can never cross again. The ultimate purpose. Why would I enforce these tricks? Because the greatest threat to my dominion is a unified and empowered Africa. If the diaspora returned with their skills, capital, and knowledge, they would awaken the sleeping giant of a continent rich in resources, culture, and youth. Africa would rise, self-sufficient and unstoppable, no longer dependent on Western systems I control. By keeping the diaspora divided, distracted, and distant, I preserve the flow of Africa's wealth outward and keep her children serving foreign empires. My purpose is simple: maintain domination, prevent liberation, and ensure that Africa never fulfills her destiny as the cradle of true power.
The system. Secondly, did you hear what just happened in Vietnam? The government closed 86 million bank accounts just because people refused to hand over their biometric data. Let that sink in, guys. 86 million people locked out of accessing their own money. To me, this is proof of where the global digital ID system is headed. Centralized, mandatory, total control for the state. And as scary as this is, you don't need to panic because there are things that you can do. Firstly, build practical independence. Land, water, energy, food, and a like-minded community. These are the 5 pillars of freedom that, should you need to, will allow you to completely disconnect from the system. Secondly, you can educate yourself and structure your life to create independence within the system, using tools like companies, trusts, private agreements, and constitutions to protect your freedom while still keeping access. And this is exactly why we've set up the Wild Minds Network, a space dedicated to helping you get the knowledge, resources, and connections that you need to fully prepare. So hey guys, I'm Billy. I live off-grid with my wife and 4 young children in a 300 square foot static caravan in the southwest of the UK. Last year, we bought 13.5 acres of bare agricultural land, and with another family and the team that joined along the way, we've transformed it into an off-grid, regenerative, community-owned farm. We have a private water supply, several food-producing enterprises, solar systems, and an incredible community space. We homeschool our children, and they're free to self-direct their own learning and enjoy the farm along with the many children from the community. We're now nearly completely self-sufficient for food and energy, achieving our goal of creating independence from the messed up mainstream system. And last but not least, we now have a wonderful co-owner community that can support the project in exchange for exclusive benefits and privileges. I'll say it again, this was bare farmland when we bought it. We did all of this in just 12 months. And if you want to do the same and get out of the mainstream to live a life of freedom and independence, comment yes, and I'll send you a link to my book that will teach you how. After COVID, I sold everything to break free from the mainstream system, and here's what I learned. So in 2022, I sold my home, my business, and most of my possessions to break away from the mainstream system. The COVID scandemic made it crystal clear. The elite control the system, and they make the rules. And I was completely dependent on them to provide for my family. At first, I tried producing food in my back garden, but I soon realized that real independence can't be achieved at that scale, and that what I needed was land. So after much searching, I managed to rent a small parcel on a 400-acre regenerative beef farm. It was a huge stepping stone, but while there, I learned something else. Self-sufficiency is a scam. No matter how hard you work, you can't do it all alone. True independence requires something deeper: community sufficiency. You need other people, you need support, you need skills, resources and knowledge beyond what one person or one family can provide. So in 2023, with my social media blowing up and my understanding of the need for land and community, I pursued partnerships to buy land and eventually secured 13.5 acres in Somerset to build an off-grid community farm. We faced some serious struggles initially trying to establish the community, but out of those challenges, a strong partnership was formed, myself and Alfie, as equal owners and decision makers with a clear, unified vision. And we built the project and the community around that partnership. Since then, the project has gone from strength to strength. We have a private water supply, off-grid solar energy, multiple food producing enterprises, and an incredible community space. And in spring 2024, we launched a co-ownership program and now have 50 families on board that support the project to fulfill its mission and in return get exclusive benefits and privileges. And now this year, we're expanding our food production to further support the community and increase the food security. And there's many, many lessons I could share with you after building our project, but here's the one that I want you to take away from this post. True independence from the mainstream system requires land and community. If you don't have both, you will never truly be free. And if you want to learn from our experience, we've put everything that we've learned into a single game-changing resource. Self-sufficiency? Oh, you mean unpaid, overworked, isolated survival? Yeah, that's a scam. I'm not saying you can't grow some food. I'm not saying you can't go off-grid for energy. I'm not even saying you can't have 700 mason jars full of canned vegetables. But if you think you're going to fully provide for all your needs, alone, forever, without burning out or breaking down, you might want to sit down. Because real talk, self-sufficiency is a scam. Sure, it sounds noble and rebellious until you realize it's just you, your chickens, and a never-ending to-do list. One sickness, one injury, and the whole thing collapses. That's not freedom. That's just farming. Solo. With anxiety. So here's a better plan. Get land, for sure. Produce your own food? Absolutely. But also, connect with like-minded people. Share skills, labour, knowledge and resources, and create community sufficiency so that instead of just escaping the system to survive, you can thrive.
Buy land. A wise man once said, buy land, they're not making any.
Now, the one thing that he said is true is that you cannot do it alone. And I know from experience, if my wife is in America and I'm in South Africa taking care of 8 children, that means that from the time I wake up and the time that they wake up, I need to do mommy duties and daddy duties. I need to get the kids dressed, teeth brushed, wash their face, get them something to eat, change diapers. Then you got to check your emails and do some stuff on the computer and maybe clean up the house or the kitchen or do some things around the house. And then it's back to getting ready to cook another meal or put a kid down for a nap. All these things you have to do within 24 hours, and you gotta sleep too. In addition to that, so there's not enough time in the day when you're taking care of the duties of a household with kids and cooking and cleaning and checking emails and doing whatever you need to do. In addition to that, managing a farm, a fully sustainable farm with chickens and livestock and produce. You can't do that. You cannot do it alone. You got to have people that help you. Otherwise, you're going to be burned out.
More of it. Buy land. I get asked all the time, what should I invest in? What should I put my money into? Land.
Buy land and start building my farm. I raised over 200k, all from private investors, not a bank in sight. And I can sum up in one sentence how I did it. I spoke to people's hearts and heads. Let me explain. If a lack of funds is what's holding you back from buying land and starting a farm, and you're looking to find investors that will back your dream with hard cash, you'll need 2 key things: a vision that speaks to their heart and a plan that speaks to their head. Now, some investors will only need one of these things. For example, one of our startup investors put £110,000 into our project before we even officially own the land, purely based on my vision. I didn't even have a solid plan at this point, and even if I did, she wouldn't have bothered to read it. She was 100% heart-led, and the vision I had spoke to it. Equally, there are investors that will focus entirely on the practical logistics of your project, your plan. They won't care at all about your grand vision. They'll want to see hard figures and a solid strategy that speaks to their head. However, most investors will need both. They'll need to feel inspired and reassured. They'll need to see the dream and the roadmap. The mainstream system is designed to keep you dependent, distracted, disconnected, and obedient. It's about controlling what you eat so that you stay sick, controlling what you think so that you follow orders, controlling what you own so that you stay in debt. It's about controlling how you live so that you don't even have the time, energy, or mental capacity to question it, keeping you in their system, playing their game by their rules. They want you trapped in the matrix without you even knowing it exists. But If you grow your own food, you don't need their fake junk. If you treat sickness with real food and herbs, you don't need their pills. If you teach your kids at home, you don't need their schools. And if you don't need them, they lose control. Dependence is their agenda. Freedom is yours. It's time to start building it. And for true freedom, you need two things: land and community. How to exit the matrix. The 5 components needed for freedom from the mainstream system. Number 1, land. This is the foundational resource upon which freedom from the mainstream system is built. Without access to land, all the other components of freedom are inaccessible. That's why when I sold my home and business and set off in search of freedom, I had a singular goal in mind: access land. Number 2, water. This is the lifeblood of any independent system, and having access to clean and reliable water is fundamental. The very first thing I did after accessing our land was to drill a 60-metre borehole from which we pump into a 10,000-litre storage tank and gravity feed our entire farm with clean water. Number 3, energy. Independent energy production such as solar, wind or hydro is crucial for freedom. That's why our farm is run entirely from off-grid solar power. Number 4, food production. If we wish to sustain ourselves outside the mainstream system, we must not be dependent on it to feed ourselves. Therefore, producing your own food is a must. We've transformed our bare land into a thriving farm in just over a year and are already producing over 90% of our own food. Most people are aware of these first 4 components of freedom, and combined they symbolize the goal of self-sufficiency. But self-sufficiency is a scam. Becoming self-sufficient, you may be able to survive outside the mainstream system, but you will never thrive. And you definitely won't have freedom, because you will have swapped your slavery to the mainstream system for slavery to your own system. Systems do not have a mind of their own. They operate as they were designed, and the system designed around a single person or family, i.e. self-sufficiency, by default can never offer freedom. True independence, true freedom, can only be built with component number 5, and that's community. A like-minded and supportive community is the secret to truly thriving outside of the mainstream and is essential to creating freedom. And that's why our farm is a community farm. We harness the collective skills, knowledge, labour, wisdom and resources of our community to not just survive outside the mainstream system, but to thrive.
The lust to control other human beings is a story as old as time. There's a very strong drift in the direction of globalization, of the ultimate centralization of control in the hands of unelected officials at supranational organizations.
They want all of the resources of the world in their pocket.
The bigger picture is that an attempt is underway now to collapse liberal democracy and replace it with global technocracy.
This is a coup. They're saying we can control with rules. We don't need currency anymore.
It's like an inverted prison. You are supposedly free to roam about, but everything you want to access is behind lock and key.
The potential for social control is gigantic and potentially irreversible.
They plan to commandeer land, reduce farming, and radically change the food we eat, transform the supply of electricity, and then dictate how we use it, and replace currency with a system of credits. All 3 strategies are built on the premise of a climate crisis caused by carbon dioxide.
I do not think there's a climate crisis, and I base that on all the evidence and the climate data sets that we build to answer questions just like that. The government is very clear that they want a catastrophic story.
There is no single science paper that proves conclusively that humans control all or most of the global climate.
Europe's mad dash towards net zero is effectively economic suicide.
Politicians are purposely impoverishing ordinary people, purposely deindustrializing Europe.
It's just tremendous amount of damage in the name of saving the planet. It does make you ask, what is it we're actually saving if we're paving it over?
I think what we're dealing with here is actually a global war on agriculture.
When you look at how many farms are selling up, we're walking into food shortages.
If I can switch everybody from real food to pharma food, then 100% of the agriculture industry can go through my publicly traded stocks, and I have complete control.
This is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it's far more than that. It's a blueprint. It is the action plan.
All life on Earth is going to be radically changed.
Everything will be monitored. The environmental consequences of every human action.
The general population cannot fathom the psychopathy of the vision that they're facing.
Once the digital ID is in place, it's game over for humanity.
What if the U.S. is trying to trap you inside its borders for a catastrophe they know is coming? They're slapping tariffs on everything. Prices are about to skyrocket, making it impossible to afford leaving. That wall they're building, it's not to keep people out, it's to keep you in. Look at the bridges collapsing, planes crashing left and right, exposing flaws that make flying terrifying. Who'd dare board one now? They've got you scared, stuck on the ground. And then there's this Star ID push. Sounds like something straight out of Leave the World Behind, where Tesla's piled up to trap everyone. Are they setting the stage for a lockdown disguised as safety? The economy's tightening, infrastructure's crumbling, and soon that ID might be your only ticket to move. If they let you. Is this all a coincidence or a master plan to cage you in America when the real disaster hits? Tariffs, walls, fear. It's adding up. So are they prepping you for survival or just making sure you can't escape what's coming? You be the judge.
Targeted as you already see the signs. America is creating a citizenship pathway for wealthy white foreigners while incarcerating, sterilizing, surveilling, or exterminating black, brown, and poor populations. Climate instability, economic collapse, and political extremism will first consume the least protected and most visible, us. Africa is imperfect, but Africa is possible. It is not an escape. It is a return, a strategic, sacred return. Ages 25 to 40, the builders must flee first. Mandate, flock to Africa now, not next year, not when you stack more, not after the next election. Why? You are the seed and the soil. You have the agility, adaptability, and lifespan to root, build, and bear fruit. Risk if you stay. You will be conscripted into the collapse through gig slavery, biometric surveillance, AI policing, housing precarity, and cultural erasure. Mission: become landowners, ecosystem innovators, digital nomads, farmers, educators, earth workers, and movement builders on the continent. Ages 40 to 65, the transitional generation. Mandate, downsize, liquidate, and retool. Use the next 48 months as a countdown. Why? You've accumulated resources, skills, and debt, but you also have enough memory to avoid illusion. You're young enough to start over, old enough to know why. Risk if you don't. You will be targeted as dissenters, taxed into oblivion, or sedated by comforts that no longer protect you. Your grandchildren will inherit the consequence. Mission: begin the transfer of knowledge, capital, and consciousness. Build the bridges while you walk them. Ages 65 plus, the elders must fund the future. Mandate: invest, seed, send, sponsor. If you love your grandchildren, love them enough to get them out. You may not make the trip physically, but your pension, policy, and property can. Risk if you ignore it. Your grandchildren will be spiritually devoured in a nation that no longer considers them human. What they don't kill, they will consume. Mission: buy land, build schools, fund visas, seed farms, sponsor businesses, send a generation home. This is not fear-mongering. This is forecasting. And the most spiritually charged, the under 20 generation, the ones watching us with side-eye and sorrow, the ones still young enough to believe in possibility, but smart enough to know we failed the assignment. Youth mandate for Black ages 20 and under. 1. Study Africa ruthlessly, not romantically. Learn real modern-day Africa, its cities, its crypto hubs, its tech accelerators, its youth movements, its trade zones, its politics. Investigate the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, digital infrastructure projects, and regions welcoming diaspora. Ditch the outdated missionary sponsor complex lens. Africa isn't waiting for charity, it's waiting for co-conspirators in the comeback. 2. Own the digital realms, social media, monetization, and the metaphysical. Get fluent in how YouTube, TikTok, and AI platforms monetize attention and data, then turn the tables. Begin building Black-owned ecosystems, apps, networks, databases, communication hubs, and decentralized systems. Become masters of the next iteration. AI, nanotech, neural interfaces, metaphysical modeling, transdimensional tech. Spiritual innovation will be essential to physical survival. Reminder, the machine will always offer you filters and virality, but never freedom. You must build your own algorithm. 3. Organize peer-led escape and resistance networks. Build autonomous, encrypted peer-to-peer spaces, not just for chat, but for evacuation planning, knowledge sharing, and mutual aid. Think like a modern-day underground railroad, but global. Smuggle knowledge, visas, opportunity, and hope. Operate under the radar. No performative politics, no mainstream co-optation. This is sacred strategy. They will need the cunning of hackers, the heart of prophets, and the stealth of insurgents. The youth are not ours to save. They are ours to equip. They watched us march. They watched us fold. They watched us vote, pray, riot, and gentrify. Now they watch the world burn. Don't lie to them. Don't pacify them. Arm them with knowledge, with skill, with sanctuary, with sovereignty. We must move before the water is undrinkable, before the soil is unsowable, and before the border is no longer crossable. This is not retreat, it is resurrection. This is not fear, it is faith in motion. Africa is not the backup plan, it is the birthplace of the blueprint. You already see the signs.
Good morning, sir. How you doing today? There you go. Pretty good. All right. Look at that. Boom. Right here. He's ready. He's ready. What you ordering today? Ooh, regular 7. Just in case someone ain't told you.
All right, so the reason why I showed that video last because a lot of people are facing homelessness from loss of jobs. We see Section 8 housing changes. We see the SNAP changes in the WIC and EBT cards that funds a lot of people that need it for food. Baby formula is through the roof. I know for a fact when I used to get Isomil and Infamil and all these different types of formula, that these formulas are not cheap, whether it's the pre-made liquid kind or it's the powder. And sometimes you have babies that need a specific type of formula, and that formula can hit you for 30 to 40 to 50, even $60 for formula if you have a child and you're not breastfeeding the child. So that's just formula, and we're not talking about food security. People depend on EBT cards, aka SNAP, for food. So this is widespread whether it's in Detroit and you see the Arabs, you see the Indians, you see the Jews, you see blacks using it, Latinos, whether you're in New York City and the Jews are using it on the first of the month, blacks and Latinos and other ethnic groups are standing in line at grocery stores in the 5 boroughs waiting to use their SNAP benefits. Same thing in North Carolina, same thing in Memphis, same thing in Orlando, same thing in Atlanta, Georgia, same thing all over the world, all over the United States of America. People are dependent on SNAP and EBT cards. So we are actively, as a small group, trying to leave America behind because we see what's happening. We know that we have to come together. We have to leave while we can, because while we can leave, at least getting to Africa, if you do have any type of residual income or savings or ability to make money online, then you will be saving a whole lot more money in Africa than if you was to stay in America and deal with the things that's happening right now. So these are a group of ladies that are all 60 years and up. The oldest lady in this picture is 81 years old. And so a lot of retired African Americans are fleeing America. They're not telling you why they're fleeing. They're not doing any TikTok videos and Twitter videos and Instagram videos. They're just leaving. And the reason why you can tell they're leaving and you know they're leaving because a lot of the tour companies that are large and they accommodate all races. So you can book a tour on a tour bus that is going to hit Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Victoria Falls, Gaborone, Botswana, and other areas. They're going to hit all these different areas in Southern Africa, and these tour buses are large enough to hold 40 to 50 people, and they have bathrooms on the bus. I think they have one bathroom I've seen on one of the buses. But the people getting off these buses, yeah, I saw 1 or 2 white people, but majority, 99% of the people getting off on these tours were Black retired people, African Americans. Yes, they were not with the real South Africa tour. They were booking these large tour groups that own the tour company in America, and they just contract these gigantic buses and the drivers. And then they have a tour guide. The tour guide takes them around for 10 to 14 days. And what they're looking to do is to relocate. They're not just the retired African Americans are not coming just for fun. They're coming to get away from America. They're not telling you this, that they're leaving America and they're going to South Africa. They're just taking trips, and then within 6 months to a year, they're getting a retirement visa, and they're out. They're done. They're out, and they're leaving their kids behind. A lot of these women, a lot of these people here, they have grandkids. They got kids, and you say, well, how come your kids ain't coming? No, they don't see what we see. So the older generation is leaving, and the grandkids and the kids are staying in America. That's the reason why the ladies here are 60 and above, all the way to the age of 80, 81. This goes to show you that people are moving. And some of the ladies that were there, they were from Florida, and they're used to being around the salt water, ocean, air, water from the beach. They're used to water. And they kind of, Johannesburg is a city that's not near the beach. It's not Durban. It's not Cape Town. So I showed some ladies some nice apartments that people of all ages are staying at, especially the elderly, because the elderly, they don't have time to be cutting grass, doing stuff out landscaping, taking out trash, and doing. They want to have the amenities there: the laundry room services, the clubhouse, the gym, the restaurant, the security, the transportation. They want to have all these things already there in the facilities that they're going to be staying in. And so I had to show people on the tour different places that senior citizens and the elderly can adapt to and land nicely when leaving America to Africa, because it is scary when you're leaving your children and grandchildren behind and you're a senior citizen and you have never been to South Africa. You don't know nobody in Africa. This is a whole new culture, a whole new environment, and you're looking for a place to stay. You don't want to be in a house all by yourself, and then somebody breaks into your house while you're there or while you're not there and steal stuff. Or they rob you because you're an elderly Black woman and you're vulnerable to be robbed. So a lot of them are coming to look at different types of what they call luxury apartment style living. And actually, these luxury apartment style living complexes are not that expensive, especially if you, as a group, like say 2 or 3 people, tag team in a 3-bedroom. You tag team a 3-bedroom apartment in a luxury apartment, and you're looking at spending about $200 to $300 a month. That's it. $200 to $300 a month, and you got all the amenities there. You don't even have to go to the gym because the gym is already there, so you don't need a gym membership. So, like I said, there's a lot of things. South Africa is an easy, soft landing for those that have kids and families, and they worry about, are the kids going to have things to do? Are we going to have things to do? So they have all these things in South Africa, and in Africa in general. Africa is not just the jungle. I mean, the Gentiles have been here for hundreds of years, and other nations are coming too. The Arabs, the Chinese, the Jews, Pakistani, the Russians, they're coming here now, and they're coming with big money, and they understand there's money in hospitality, there's money in tourism, there's money in entertainment, there's money in food and restaurants. They're doing it, and they know that Africa is a young population of young people, and they're growing. They're getting educated, they're getting jobs and skills, they're making money, and then when they get their money, they want to spend it on things that are outdoors, things that they can do outside their apartment or their house. So yeah, they know exactly what to do. They know exactly what to invest their money in, so that they have automatic consumers and workers. Remember, the people working here are Black. The people that are using these facilities for their entertainment are Black. The people that own these facilities are not Black. Sun City, man-made lagoon, beach, wave pool. Sun City was Sissoko Sun was started by a Jewish man named Solomon Kursner Sol. I think it was a Russian Jew. Anyway, so our goal is to do tours, of course, in South Africa, Botswana, and soon to be Uganda. This is a picture of Uganda near the mountains of the moon and the rivers and streams and lakes that cut through the mountains into the valleys, going into the various countries like Rwanda, Uganda, and the Congo. So there's a lot of things that are still left to be explored and seen. Not just America, live and die in America.
We're here in South Africa on the Transvaal River, as you can see. You guys need to be here. You need to be here. There goes. What's up, Eddie?
Hi. This is Eddie.
All right. South Africa. I need to get here. Leave Babylon America behind. Come back home. Shalom.
Okay, so for all those that are here today, either you were on the email blast list and you got the email notification. If you did not, then usually I put people on the email blast list that were on the Zooms, the previous Zooms. But in case you want to be proactive, h2ntv.com has an area where you can scroll down and enter your email for the email blast list. So you can get up to date emails on all the things that I'm doing, usually on the weekends, all the Zoom meetings and workshops. So the tour we're going to do to Uganda, I just had a couple phone calls this week with people in Uganda and people that have lived in Uganda for like 9 years. African Americans lived in Uganda for 9 years, not too far from Lake Victoria, and they have 36 acres of land. 36 acres of land. What happens is that when the Gentiles come, or even African Americans come to Africa, and when they marry a local in that country, and they have kids, then those kids are citizens. They're citizens of that country. So if you have a kid with a Ugandan man or woman, then your child is now a citizen. So as citizens of the land, you are able to own land. This is why it's so important when people say you can get citizenship. When you get citizenship in Ghana or Burkina Faso, wherever you can get it, then that means that technically, unless there's a law in place that says foreigners who've got citizenship can or cannot own land. Well, if you can own land, that means you can own acres of land and pass it down to your children. You don't necessarily have to lease the land from the king, although a lot of that is being done in Africa, period, all over. So leasing land is like leasing land for 50 to 100 years. That is the land of the king. And as long as you know the king, you know people is connected to the king, then leasing land is not a problem. Even if the king gets too old or he dies and he leaves his successor is usually his son, and the leasehold agreement still stands in place. So people can use that land for agricultural means and building homes on the land in the wilderness. So like I said on a previous meeting that we had, I'm going to be setting up, I actually did set up Calendly. I just have to integrate it with the negronetwork.com so that you can go to the negronetwork.com and book a consultation to talk to me, since I'm super busy, but people still want to talk and get some information on things in terms of relocating to Southern Africa or even Botswana, or just things that they might want to know because they're in another country like Ghana or Rwanda or Tanzania or Kenya, and they are looking to relocate to a different country. So whether you're elderly, retired, non-retired, married with kids, kids are adults, kids are children, elderly, disabled, self-employed, employed, since I've been here for the last 3 to 4 years, then I definitely can help in terms of a lot of questions, because I've been here and been navigating for the last couple of years now, so I already know the ins and outs. Tomorrow we have a group meeting for the Botswana Investment Group, and I explain why this is important, that we be in more than one group, because especially if you're not retired and you're young, you're going to need to be in as many groups as possible, because it's going to help in terms of the long run when you need to go to different countries and partake in the group economic activities that we're going to be doing. Because when you do things alone, it makes things a lot harder and more expensive. So again, this is also something that email blasted out throughout the week. This is the old flyer, but we have a meeting coming up tomorrow. So one of the things in terms of understanding the severity of leaving America is that digital IDs are being talked about, they're being implemented, in Asia. They're being implemented in the United Kingdom. They're soon to be implemented probably in America. We just haven't had the rollout uh, uh, information about it yet, like the president or the premier of the UK just did. But the federal government is already on it in terms of central bank digital currencies. And these currencies being owned by private organizations that the United States of America is going to have to oversee. So private firms are going to be issuing out stable coins that the United States is going to have to approve as legal tender to be used in the United States, which is basically privately issued digital money. So like Jeffrey Bucks, like Toys R Us for the 21st century. So a private firm, which could be a conglomerate of the richest people in America that decide to all invest their money in a stable coin, and they're going to call it, whatever they want to call it. And this is going to be the stable coin that the United States of America is going to deem acceptable for use for legal tender, no longer needing a dollar, but using stable coins. This is all possible because of the Genius Act that they passed. Nobody paid attention to what this Genius Act actually allows the United States to do in terms of stable coins. So the big banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, a lot of these banks have been using Zelle, but they are also now talking about using a joint stable coin, digital currency. Yes, it's here. It's here. And it doesn't even go there because these groups of people, they also come together and they figure out how they can keep our eyes looking somewhere else versus in another direction. So in 1884, a lot of guys, a lot of rich guys, a lot of important guys, they came together and decided that they were going to change they were going to come up with the meridian line for the world. The meridian line essentially is a north-south line that is supposed to be the true north line, that is the longitudinal line that separates the eastern hemisphere from the western hemisphere. The equator separates the north from the southern hemisphere. But they did this in 1884. No African presidents or leaders were present. And they made this arbitrary made-up line and used it to cross the equator right at the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Ghana, or the city called Tema in Ghana. However, we know that the Bible does state that Jerusalem is in the center. The Hebrew word is Tevek. Do not look at the English word midst, because it's misleading. The word Tevek means the center or bisection. The bisection of a circle is, depending how you cut it, it could be the top and bottom half or the left and right half. Either way it goes, you see that there are points that do bisect the earth. If you're talking about a global globe earth. And it says that Jerusalem is also surrounded or in the center of the nations, meaning all the nations are around it, the Goyim. And Jerusalem is a location or an area that is surrounded by land. And of course, in Psalms 125:1, verse 1 through 2, it says that Jerusalem is also surrounded, or the Bible says encircled in the Hebrew, by mountains. So when you look at the 31-degree east longitudinal line, which is the original meridian line that the Israelites and the Egyptians and the Cushites knew about, and it was in line with the stars of the sky that don't move, like the North Star, then the true north-south longitudinal ancient meridian line during the biblical time eras was cutting through Egypt, following the course of the Nile River into Sudan, of course, following the course of the Nile River and the pyramids of Sudan, the pyramids of Giza, all the way going down into the boundary border of Uganda and the DRC, which the Gentiles created that boundary. They sliced that boundary straight through the Missouri Mountains. Before that, there were kingdoms that ruled in Uganda and the Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi.
Long before the names Uganda and Congo appeared on maps, before colonial borders cut through valleys and rivers, there lived a people bound by mountains, memory, and resilience. They are the Baira, the Bakonzo of western Uganda and the Banande of eastern Congo, children of the Rwenzori Mountains, keepers of ancient fire, a people whose story is as misty and mysterious as the snow-capped peaks they call home. But who are the Baira really? To answer, we must climb into the heart of the Rwenzori, the mountains of the moon, a sacred...
And the kingdoms were ruled by kings. Just like in Wakanda, you had different kings in different areas of Wakanda. But the Europeans came and they sliced a boundary straight through the middle of the Missouri Mountains, meaning that the Missouri Mountains straddle the eastern DRC border and the Ugandan border. And of course, Lake Victoria is to the right. So why is that important? Because when looking to relocate to Africa, if we are Hebrew or Web, then we know that Jerusalem is a place of peace, rest, and safety. That's what the word means. It means God will provide peace, security, safety, rest. So Yirah Salem, Yirah means God will provide. Yah will provide. Shalom or Salem means peace, rest, security, safety, completeness, wholeness. That's what that means. So you're in a place of peace, rest, safety, wholeness, completeness. You're like in the Garden of Eden. The Bible tells us that Mount Zion, that was in Zion or the city of Zion or Jerusalem, on Mount Zion, there will be those who escape, a remnant. The Hebrew word is pelatah. A remnant survivors, a remnant of survivors will escape. Where? On Mount Zion. And Mount Zion will be holy, and the house of Jacob shall possess their property. This verse is speaking about the future deliverance of a surviving remnant of Israel, who will be holy and regain their land and possessions at the time judgment will befall other nations. This is going to happen on Mount Zion. Where is Mount Zion? It's where Jerusalem is at. So we need to understand when we get to the land of Canaan, ultimately, what is our end goal? Is our end goal to get to Mount Zion? Is our end goal to get to Jerusalem? The scripture does talk about that in Ezekiel 38, the whole chapter. So when you look at the timeline that we're in right now with the economy, and the Bible does state that in the last days, there are going to be many things happening. Christ told us this. He told us this. The problem is, are we taking heed to what Christ told us, to what's coming to the earth and America? People will say Babylon is not America. Babylon is everywhere. Babylon is a system. But the Bible is clear that Babylon is going to be mourning in Babylon. It's going to be famine, starvation in Babylon. A system cannot mourn. A system cannot cry. A system cannot experience famine and starvation. The internet can't starve. The internet can't cry. The digital banking system can't cry. The digital banking system can't mourn. The digital banking system can't starve or go through famine. So what is the system that we are in? What is the system? Has anybody identified it? Is it our cities? Is it our nation? Is it our state? Is it following pagan holidays? Nobody has a real answer because they don't want to address the fact that Babylon is a place. It is real. There is a city in Babylon, a great city, and Babylon is going to be destroyed. The Bible says that there are going to be great earthquakes in many places, famines, which means starvation, and disease. There will be fearful sights and great sights from the heaven. But one thing that I noticed is that in the ancient Bibles, there was another word that they added there that kind of disappeared after the KJV 1611. So when the Bible says, "Come out of her, my people," it's not talking about the initial angel that came down out of heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted up with his glory. And he said with a strong voice, "Babylon the Great is fallen, has become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit, the cage of every unclean and hateful bird." But then it says, if you pay attention, it says, "And I heard another voice from heaven." Who is this other voice? What voice is this speaking from heaven? Saying, "Come out of her, my people." So we know that we are God's chosen people, not the angels' people. We are God's chosen people, that ye may not be partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Plagues are coming. Christ says to pray always that you are worthy to escape all the things that Christ said in Luke 21 is going to come to the earth. Well, if Christ is coming to get us, why do we have to pray that we're going to be worthy to escape? Why do we need to escape anything if Christ, you told us you're going to get us? If I'm a believer in Christ and you are coming to get us in the twinkling of an eye, then why do we have to pray we're worthy to escape? Why do we need to escape? Escape what? You're coming to get us. In the Bible, it adds the word great tempest. So normally you will see great signs from the heavens will appear, and then that's it. It'll be done. The scripture will end. But in some of the earliest Bibles, it says that there's going to be great signs from the heavens will appear, and great tempest shall there be. And you're probably thinking, like, well, what is a great tempest? Why is it there in the old Bibles, but then they remove it? Great tempest means overwhelming hardships that are going to hit the earth. Overwhelming hardships. In addition to signs from the heavens. In addition to the signs from the sky, and in space, we are going to experience very, very overwhelming hard times. Now, they will say, well, that means, no, that doesn't mean that. It means there's going to be a lot of different storms. This is what they tell us. There's going to be some storms. Storms. No, there's a meaning for everything. But we do know that there are going to be signals and warnings that a calamitous event that is going to happen, like an omen. And it's going to be very large, very great. So we have to understand that these signs and signals are important for us to take heed to. Okay, and in case you didn't believe what I was saying, Pelata is the word for escape. And it talks about deliverance, a remnant, survivor, those who escaped, escapees, remnant, deliverance. Deliverance is sort of like salvation. You have physical salvation, you have spiritual salvation, the salvation of your soul, to be saved. Saved from what? Saved from danger, saved from eternal hell or damnation. So when we look at these things, we have to start to put two and two together and realize that we have to take heed to the signs. One of the things that I do know for a fact is that all the things that are happening in the world with Venezuela and the United States, Russia, and the Tomahawk missiles that the United States wants to give Ukraine, even Hamas they're not done. They're still alive, very well alive, vowing vengeance. All these things are just signs. They're just signs that we are not out of the woods. In addition to the lockdowns that we have, or the shutdowns we have right now with the government going into the month of November. This is not good. So we have to figure out what's the end game. What's going to happen this year or next year? And are we prepared to stick around and fight to deal with this? And like this military guy said, he said, we are living in a time where you're going to have to decide whether you're going to flee America, are you going to fight in America, or are you going to freeze up? And he said, those of you that freeze up and you start panicking and don't know what to do because stuff has hit the fan and reality has set in, he said the people that freeze up are gonna die. They're gonna perish. He said, and if you fight, he said, get ready for a long and hard fight because you're gonna be fighting many things in America. Let's play this real quick.
Back around the year 2017, I was in a Coney Island restaurant waiting on a carry-out order when I noticed a white man who was staring at me for a long time while I was on the phone talking to my wife. I asked the man, "Can I help you?" And he replied, "I would like to talk to you if that's possible." I told my wife I would call her back, and I walked to the man to see what he wanted. He stood up, looked me in the eye, and said, "What is God's name?" I said, "It depends on who your God is. It could be Zeus, Satan, Baal, Allah, Osiris, Horus, Dagon, or whoever." He replied, "No, God's name is Yahuwah or Yahuwah." The man told me he used to ride bulls and had an accident riding a bull where he injured his head and spinal cord. He said he was rushed to the hospital where he said he died and had an out-of-body experience before being resuscitated back to life in a trauma room. He said his spirit left his body and he talked to God and was told that it wasn't his time yet to die and that he would return back to his body in his physical life, but would later be revealed the fate of America. He said 1 to 2 years after this experience, he was visited by angels and experienced a horrifying vision where the United States of America in the future will experience catastrophic earthquakes, tsunamis that will devastate the east and west coast of America. He said there will be massive flooding in cities and states underwater. But the most striking thing he said was that China and Russia would attack America from outside and within, utilizing the borders of Canada and Mexico. He also said from the Mexican border and the Gulf of Mexico that men dressed in all black with all black flags will also invade and terrorize America. The most intriguing thing he said was a warning about one of the former presidents of the United States of America. Should we take heed to this potential warning? Is Yah trying to warn people of what is coming? Are we safe in our country, cities, and states? Are we prepared for the end of days where the Bible calls the Great Tribulation? Is it time to sound the alarm?
Okay. All right. So one of the key things that the masses are not doing in the Israelite community, even in the Christian community, even with large churches like Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, 2819 Church, many of the large Israelite camps and organizations, they are not addressing all 4 points. They're not addressing all 4 points. Yes, they can tell us we're the Israelites, or they cannot tell us we're the Israelites in terms of Christianity. They can not tell us where our true homeland is, or the land of Canaan. They can tell us it's over here, but reality is proving that to be questionable. They don't want to talk about who are the Canaanites today. Well, who are the Canaanites today? That's a valid question. Because in Judges chapter 1, it tells us that the Israelites could not drive out all the Canaanites in the land, and they remain until this day. It never said in the Old Testament that they drove out or they killed all the Canaanites. So therefore, why does nobody in the Christian church or the Israelites on YouTube tell us who and where are the Canaanites today? Are they black? Are they white? Are they Arab? What do they look like? What name do they go by? Can I Google them to see where they at, where they are at in Africa or where they are at in the Middle East? They don't address this. Who is our enemy and adversary? According to Ezekiel 38, we do have enemies and adversaries if we are calling ourselves the Israelites. And these adversaries are forming an alliance. It's an old-time alliance, an old alliance. Either they know the Bible better than us, and they know that this alliance needs to happen, or the Most High is just orchestrating it exactly how the prophecies is stating it should happen in the future. So Gomer and Magog and Meshach and Tubal, Togarmah, Persia, Cush, not Ethiopia, and Put, all of them, many people with them. The interesting thing is that no matter what the Bible tells us, if we are going to do business with these other nations and sign memorandums of understanding and agreements and accept money from these other nations, accept military training from these other nations, accept weapons from these other nations, give them access to land, and with the land, give them the land rights for the minerals and the water and the oil. If we're going to do this with the other nations, then we need to know that in verse 8, it says, "Be thou prepared," meaning the Israelites, "and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." So we have to be on the lookout, because the Bible says prophesy against these nations. That is not a good thing when the Bible says to prophesy against these nations. And then after all of these nations being named off by nations in Genesis chapter 10, it says for us to be prepared and to be on guard. This is what it's all about. Why are we being on guard? Because they have an evil agenda, a plan to cause harm to our land and the people. So there is salvation when it comes to our fleshly salvation while we're alive and living on the earth. Save us from poverty. Save us from dying of malaria, yellow fever, and HIV, and diseases that we should be able to defeat. Save us from debt. Save us from unemployment, lack of housing, lack of ability to self-sustain our countries with food from our land. Yes. So this is what the great deception is all about. God is not the author of confusion. And when there are multiple obstacles in place to keep us from obtaining all 4 steps or all 4 key points, then you know that this is important enough to where Satan or the adversary wants to keep this from us. He doesn't care if we know we are the Israelites, because if we don't connect the other 3 points, then we still have not done what we're supposed to do. Okay, so again, the word salvation is a Latin word meaning salvatio, salva, to be safe or to be saved, protected from a harmful or dire situation. In religion and theology, salvation is typically, we are going to decipher it as being our soul delivered from sin and the consequences of sin. But salvation also can mean to be safe or protected from things that are coming our way that is going to be harmful to us or put us in a bad predicament. So the Bible tells us how to escape the things that are coming to America and to get into a place of peace, rest, and safety and nourishment. We just are too blind to read the Bible and understand when it tells us that we need to start preparing to leave Babylon, that we need to flee and we need to come together. That's the key word, together. Okay? So, and the key thing is too, immigration, the immigration of all these nationalities into Africa is prophesied. So when you go to the Department of Home Affairs, Visa Facilitation Services Office, when you go to the border and you see all the other nations that are being fast-tracked to get citizenship, permanent residency, illegal immigrants in South Africa, whether it's Pakistani, Afghanistani, Israeli, Arabs, Chinese, Russians, Europeans, other Africans, it's because the Bible already told us that these things are happening. So when we see the Somalians, the Nilots from South Sudan, when we see the Tuaregs and the Hausa, the Fulanis encroaching now into Uganda and Nigeria, and Cameroon, and Togo, and Benin, and Ghana, and Ivory Coast, because the Bible tells us that they are going to immigrate or flock to these other lands of Canaan as so-called immigrants or refugees, or just to flee their homeland for a reason. The Bible says they shall ascend and come like a storm. They shall be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands, many people with thee. And while they're coming to the land of Canaan in sub-Saharan Africa, at the same time, this is really deep when you really look at it. At the same time that they're coming into sub-Saharan Africa, they're going to have evil thoughts come into their mind. They're going to say, let us go into the land of unwalled villages. Let's go to them that are dwelling at rest and dwell safely. All of them dwelling without walls, neither having bars nor gates. And what is that? What are they saying that they're going to do? This is what thus saith Yahuwah Elohim. It says they're going to come to take a spoil, to seize, to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the places that were once uninhabited until the Bantu people got there. And the Bantu people got there, they inhabited the land of Canaan. To turn their hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited by who? The Israelites, the Bantu people. And they're going to prey upon the people that are gathered out of the nations. Meaning like the diaspora, other Africans that are in other countries, they're thinking about, I got to leave Europe. It's getting hectic. I got to leave America. It's getting hectic. Which have gotten cattle and land, and they dwell in the midst of the land. The Hebrew word means that's used here is to devastate, to destroy, to ravage. When it says cover the land like a cloud, the Hebrew means to take refuge, to flee, to hide, to take cover. So this is what it means in the Hebrew, that they are going to come to sub-Saharan Africa to flee, to take refuge, to hide, to take cover. And they're actually doing that right now. They're actually doing that right now, because I'm here in South Africa and I see it with my own eyes. They are here to seize and take the possessions that the Bantu Israelites already had. Property. They are coming to seize and take, however they can, the property and the land that they had. This is really deep. To spoil, to plunder, to take booty. Plunder means to take something from another by force or craftiness or coercion. Achieve something, meaning to achieve a goal through cleverness, trickery, or cunning rather than take it by direct force or direct means. It implies to use skill and strategy, often deceit, to outsmart someone to achieve a desired outcome. So the other nations say, we're going to train your military. We're going to send you weapons. We're going to build a stadium. We're going to build houses. We're going to build a railroad. We're going to build a dam. We're going to build an airport. We're going to set up satellites, Starlink. We're going to do all these things. So they're going to tell the African governments, we want to invest $1 billion into different sectors of the economy to stimulate GDP. They're gonna tell the African presidents this. Then in return, they're gonna say, here's the fine details of what we're gonna get in return. And here's the penalties if you fail to renege on your loan agreement. And this is why many countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, Angola, even Egypt are in massive debt to the Chinese, massive debt to the Chinese and other nations. Okay, so the money that's flowing out of Africa is essentially spoiling, plundering, looting. Billions of dollars are coming out of Africa each year, not to mention the amount of money that Kenya and other countries are paying in debt payments to the IMF, to the United States, to China, to other nations. Yes, this is a known fact. So why is all this stuff happening in sub-Saharan Africa with these other Gentile nations, and these things are not happening in Israel? The Russians are not the descendants of the Greeks and Romans, Javan and Kittim. The Russians are not Shemites. The Russians are not Hamites. The Russians have to be the children of Japhet. But we know that the children of the Russians, they're not Greeks, they're not Romans. So who are they? Well, they have to be Magog, Gomer, Meshach, Tubal. They gotta be something, they gotta be one of them. And guess what they're doing? Whether it's the United States, European countries, the Arabs, the Jews, Chinese, the East Indians, what are they doing? They're coming to Africa seeking infrastructure. They're going to help with infrastructure. They're going to help with finances, loans, aid. They're going to help with military, whether it's private military like the Wagner or their own military. The Israeli, Mossad, the CIA, all these different, they're going to come and have political ties with these leaders, whether they're presidents that were elected or they're coup leaders. How do these things happen? Is the president elections rigged? Are the coups rigged? They're coming to destabilize countries so that they can come in and offer stabilization, create conflict in the Eastern DRC so that they can swoop in and say, okay, we'll end the conflict, we'll stabilize the country. In return, we want all the minerals. Yes, this is a playbook. This is a playbook. Okay, so we have to look at the reality of all these things are happening in Africa. What are the Chinese doing in Africa? What are the Russians doing in Africa? What are the Arabs doing in Africa? What are the East Indians doing in Africa? What are the Jews doing in Africa? What are the Europeans doing in Africa? They want what? Silver, gold, minerals. They want what? They want land. This is exactly what is in Ezekiel 38. They're not satisfied with their own land. They want the land of Canaan. Pakistani, Afghanistani, and East Indians, they're not satisfied with just their land because now they want to take a piece of Africa. And they're flooding into Africa. The East Indians are in Tanzania, they're in Kenya, they're in East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa. While we are confused about our identity. We are Pan-African, we're Hotep, we're Moors, we're Hebrew Israelites. Now we're Indigenous Native American Indians, the FBA, ADOS. Meanwhile, while all the confusion in our mind keeps us stagnant and not doing anything about what's happening in America, the other nations are planning, preparing. They're doing their studying. They're saying Africa is where it's at. Time to make money. Let's make money in Africa. Let's utilize the young population as consumers and workers. Meanwhile, in America, we struggle to survive, check to check, depending on EBT card, Section 8 housing, a job, a 9 to 5. Will they fire me? Will they downsize me? Will they furlough me? These are all things that's happening in reality. Will I be homeless? Will I have to sleep in my car, sleep in storage, moving with my mom and daddy, my grandma, my auntie? Yes. So just like I showed in the video earlier, there is a stepwise plan to the collapse. America blackout, it's actually in Revelation chapter 18, when it talks about there will be no light seen in her. No candle shall shine in her. It says again. Well, we know that they're not going to say no light bulb shall shine in her when it talks about Babylon. It says no candle, no light shall shine in her. Does that mean that per Revelations 18, there's going to be a blackout nationwide in America? While in Africa, there's no blackouts, according to the movie Leave the World Behind. Food prices. How long can we sustain? 4 chicken breasts. 4 chicken breasts. I'm going to tell you what this costs right now. 45 rands is $2.60. $2.60 for 4 chicken breasts. I can't even eat all 4. When I get chicken breasts for a salad, I'm really only eating 2, maybe 3, and I'm leaving 1 in the pot. And my wife usually eats it if she's hungry. So I can't even eat all the chicken breasts that's here for $2.60. They don't even sell chicken breasts by 2 in a pack like you see in America. In America, you got 2 giant chicken breasts per dude. $21. $21. This is the year 2025. This is September. September the 2nd, 2025. $21, 2 chicken breasts, 2 chicken breasts, Publix. This is crazy. So we have to understand we need to either stay and drown in America, or we need to get out and do whatever we can to survive. I'm gonna show you how we can do it. So retail workers are at risk. Content creators and filmmakers are at risk, unless you are getting your content and films on Netflix. You know, good luck, because Netflix requirements are tough. Factory workers are at risk. Massive layoffs, the tariffs are all coming down. Healthcare workers are at risk. Medicaid, Medicare, independent marketplace insurances like Aetna and United Healthcare, Molina. All these things are at risk. And when these things are at risk, guess what? Hospitals start laying off, nursing homes start laying off. If the nursing home can't sustain, then nursing homes have to shut down. They cannot accept patients with Medicaid payment pending. The hospitals cannot accept patients that come in with Medicaid pending, meaning that they don't know they're going to get paid or not. It's pending. They cannot accept patients that have no insurance. You cannot admit them and then run all these tests. Because remember, the doctor that is the attending physician that day, he's going to get a call from the ER. They're going to say we got a patient that's in diabetic ketoacidosis. He needs admission. The physician, because I've been there, I've done this. The physician is going to say, what kind of insurance does he have? The hospital physician attending on call, if he's not a doctor working for the hospital group, getting paid by the hospital, if he's a private doctor on call for that day, and the ER calls him for admission, the hospital, that doctor is gonna answer. He's gonna say, "Does the patient have insurance?" And if they say yes, he's gonna say, "What kind of insurance?" That's how he knows he's gonna get paid for admitting the patient, putting in the orders, coming the next day to round on the patient, putting in more orders until the patient is discharged. He's gonna know whether or not the patient has insurance, so that he knows I'm gonna get paid or I'm not gonna get paid. And if the doctor says no, the patient is 35 years old, he has no insurance. The doctor's like, oh well, and he's gonna have to accept the patient anyway, and just know that when he sees the patient the next day, he can bill, but he ain't getting paid because the patient don't have no insurance. So this is the same thing in the nursing homes. So a lot of the healthcare workers are going to be laid off. No more overtime. We don't need these nurses that are on call, these travel nurses that they get paid $50 an hour. They're going to say, no. We want staff, regular 80-hour check workers. We can't afford these nurses that are travel nurses because we got paid them goo gobs of money. Let's start trying to figure out how we can not use the travel nurses and the nurses on call because we're short for nurses. They're going to say, no, these nurses are going to have to start seeing more patients. All of these things are adding up. So we need to move quickly. And I want to move further to the solution. Solution. Oh, let me just show this video real quick. This is real for those that haven't seen it, but some may have seen it. This shows you the severity of where we're at in America and how we need to start leaving now.
25 an hour is like the new $12 an hour in 2025. And the old folks don't get it because 25 an hour back in the day, you was balling. Now, bro, you can't. Come on, bro. Let me break it down. 25 an hour is what, 52 a year before taxes. So after taxes, you're looking at what? Let's round down, 40K. Let's use some easy numbers. So over the course of a year, you're working with $40,000. 40. So now let's kick in the bills. Let's start with housing. Average apartment costs $2,000 a month. Over the course of 12 months, that's 24K. That's already half gone. They talking about, oh, your housing should only be 30% of what you make. How? I just took the average. And it's all half my income already gone. 30% of my income would mean 30% of 40K, which is 12,000, which divided by 12 is 1,000 a month. Where is anybody gonna live for 1,000 a month? So housing already took over half. We had 16 already. Next, we got transportation. Let's do car note, car insurance, and gas all in one. And I could be lowballing, but let's just say $750 for easy numbers. $750 times 12 is 9,000. We already at 16,000 left. Minus the 9, what is that? 7,000. We're already at 7,000. Only listed 2 things. Next, we got groceries. Gotta eat, right? Let's say we spend $100 a week on groceries. We gonna be generous. 1,000 a week. That's 4 weeks. That's $400 times 12. What is that? 4,800. Let's round up and say 5,000. 5,000 a year on groceries. We at 7,000. 7 minus the 5, we had $2,000 left already. I don't even need to calculate anything else. We already at 2,000 from 40 and only named 3-4 things. I didn't include any debt that you may have, credit cards, all that. I didn't talk about health insurance. I didn't talk about if you had kids, if you had pets, any emergencies that you had, car maintenance, anything that you wanted for yourself. I didn't talk about any of that. Off of $40,000, only name 3-4 things, and you already at $2,000. What are we talking about? So anytime somebody be talking about $25 an hour is good, man, no, it's not. And I'm not being ungrateful, I'm being realistic. $25 an hour gets you nothing. I take this money.
All right, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. All right. So in Africa, if you factor in the amount of money that you're spending in Africa, like South Africa, on food, on housing, on transportation, on utilities, you factor that in for a whole year. Now, I know what it costs for a family of 10, but I do know what it costs for basic things at the grocery store. I do know what it costs to rent apartments or houses in Johannesburg. I do know what it costs for utilities and Uber costs to Uber to different areas if you don't have a car. When you factor in all these things for the whole year, whether you have a lump sum of savings or you have put together and saved up a lump sum of savings for 6 months to a year, like you work really hard for 6 months and you stack your money up. You sold some things, you liquidated some assets within 6 months, and you say, okay, now after 6 months, I liquidated assets, I worked real hard, stacked my money, I live below my means, I basically starved myself, eating 1 meal a day, blah, blah, blah. You did all of this and you have X amount of dollars. You will know, based on people that live in South Africa, how long you can sustain yourself in Africa until, let's say, your money runs out or you figure out how to make money online. Ideally, if you come to Africa and you already are making some money, residual income, which you're not retired, which you can keep the money flowing, you're not collecting Social Security pensions or disability from the VA. If you have money coming in monthly, then you use that to determine your budget of what you can afford. And when you're in South Africa, when you're in South Africa, you have to be very strategic, even Botswana, of what you're spending money on. If you can afford to rent a house or buy a house, then you want to have solar panels. If you live in an area that allows you to have a borehole, you want to get a borehole. You want to get a borehole and then get a filter on it so you can filter that water and have no water bill and no electricity bill. If you have to live in the inner city of Johannesburg where you don't have a borehole and you may not have a solar panel, then you have to figure out the closeness and vicinity to where you are living at and where the grocery store is at, in case you don't have a car right away. All these things you have to factor when you're looking at your monthly expenses and the money you have coming in every month. That's just survival. Then, of course, you have to adhere to strict rules when it comes to residing in Africa on a visitor visa, because there are a lot of African Americans that are living in Tanzania, in Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, Nigeria, Botswana, South Africa, and they are not yet with a permanent visa, or in most cases a retirement visa for African Americans, and therefore they are border hopping. I don't care what nobody tells you. They're border hopping either physically via car, bus, or plane, or they're using an avatar, or they're using another body to border hop their passport across the border. This is a reality. So in Africa, you have ways that you can have hot water from the sun, so you don't have a high electricity bill, because your electricity is heating your water through what they call a geyser. And you have a solar panel that can help generate the electricity consumed by the ceiling fan or the air con, because you want to have some kind of circulation in your house and not just use the window. South Africa, especially in southern areas that receive less rainfall than other areas and less clouds, you're going to see a lot of sun throughout the year. The sun in Africa has a higher radiation intensity of the solar radiation intensity in America. Therefore, the solar panels in Africa get charged up faster. and they last longer because of the simply how fast the sun can heat up and store energy in the inverters via the solar panels in Africa, period. And if you use lithium panels or lithium inverters, I'm sorry, then you'll be able to store a lot of electricity that can power your house throughout the whole day. All right. So, skip that. So the Gentiles that come here, and actually, let me go back to this. The Gentiles that come here, they are saving money all across the board, all across. This is ridiculous, and they know how to take breaks. When they take breaks, they say, "Let me take a 3-day cruise, all meals included, from Durban to Mozambique." They say, "I want to take a 14-day cruise from South Africa, from Durban to Madagascar, to Mayotte, to Mauritius, and another stop." They stop at like 4 to 5 places over the course of 2 weeks, meals all included. 32,138 rand, which is like $1,800. You want to do 4 nights, South Africa, Mozambique, from Durban on a cruise ship, you're looking at $460 a person. And the Gentiles come to Africa, whether they're in South Africa, Mozambique, they are coming to be entertained. They're coming to have food, drinks, dancing, music, the nightlife. And this is actually in South Africa. Food, drinks, nightlife, relaxation, no worries. Spending little to no cash, because if they're using rands, they're using rands. If they're using euros or dollars or British pound, then they're winning. So a lot of times the Gentiles, they go to Mozambique, they drive or fly there, and they get nice Airbnbs off the beach. They stay in nice resorts, and they sit there, they drink tea, they drink liquor and beer, they smoke, and they get entertained and they get served. And yeah, this is what they do. When you go to Ghana, this is the price of beef stir fry in Ghana. $5.70 beef stir fry. It's not even a whole kilogram. It's 0.45 kilogram. $6.20 for 4 tomatoes in Ghana, in Accra. $6 for 4 tomatoes in Ghana. I'm gonna show you because what it is in South Africa is half that price. It's half that price. So when you look at these things in the grocery store in America and you look at what it is in different African countries, you have to start to realize where am I gonna get the best bang for my buck at? And when you're married with kids, you have to, before moving to Africa, you have to look at your expenses that you're spending right now, monthly in America. And if you can make this money in Africa, then I guarantee you that all of this is going to be cut in half, so that you're going to be actually saving money if you can spend the same US dollar that you would spend on these expensives in America. You simply take that money to Africa, you're not gonna be negative, you're gonna be saving. So it's a decision that we all have to make with our 9-to-5 jobs. Not being able to exercise, not able to afford a gym membership, getting groceries after work, 7, 8 o'clock at night before the grocery store closes, you're running to the grocery store to get groceries. You just did an 8-12-hour shift. Now you gotta get groceries, expensive groceries. You come home, you're still not done with work. Your kids sit there and look at you work. You're not spending quality time with your kids because you're working. This is not living.